Good evening, and welcome to this regular meeting of the Helotes City Council. It's October 11th, 2018, and we are underway at 7 p.m. Starting our agenda tonight, we'll have the invocation, and that'll be handled by Councilmember Buys, and then we'll have the Pledge of Allegiance to the American and Texas flags. So if you would please stand for the invocation and pledges.
Let us give thanks for all the blessings, opportunities, and challenges you have given us. Guide us with your strength and wisdom so we can make the right decisions for all the citizens of Helotes. Thank you for the recent rains that allow our farmers and ranchers the water they need to provide for us. On another note, our prayers go out to the people in Florida and Georgia affected by Hurricane Michael. Give them the patience and resolve to overcome all the devastation. As always, we ask that you please keep our first responders, not only here, but all over the country, safe while they perform their unselfish duties. For those that are not able to be with their family and loved ones because of military service, we pray for your quick and safe return. May we give our best always and be assured of your presence with us. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible.
Okay, next up, we have our open session. This is citizens to be heard. We do have one individual that signed up to speak. And Albert, come on up to the podium and give us your name and address, and the clock will start, and you'll have 3 minutes to finish your statement. Okay?
Good evening. My name is Albert Navarro. I live at 12107 Dawes Point in the Helotes ETJ. I am the Laura Heights HOA president. We've had an issue with traffic, and we understand there's a light that's already been approved to be installed at Gaume and Mill Park. The intersection is getting more dangerous by the day. It takes 20 minutes just to get out of our neighborhood in the morning to get to school, to get kids to the elementary school, to get onto Gaume itself. I believe last year you were working with Caleb regards
Yes.
to this. Mm-hmm. And I've been emailing Josh for the last 11 and even as of this morning, the county shot an email back when I sent them an email this morning asking for an update, basically passing the buck to Helotes, saying it's going to be installed in Helotes. I'm just asking for y'all's help and hopefully getting a light installed there soon. I've talked to the developer from there. I've emailed Judge Nelson Wolf, and still the only thing we get is it's in Helotes. It's their responsibility. Like I said, it's getting more dangerous there. I had to hear my residents every day complain about issues with traffic and things like that. I just hate for someone to get hurt before a light gets installed there. Thank you.
You bet, Albert. And I haven't had the pleasure before tonight to meet you, but I'll check with Josh and see if we can't hustle Bexar County up. Mm-hmm. Okay, next up. It's been a while since we've done a mayor's report, and since we have a fairly short agenda tonight, Rick and Josh and I talked about maybe filling the council and everyone else in on the street improvement projects that we just completed. As you recall, we brought this to you last year, and you approved it, and all the work has essentially been completed except for some of the punch items. And so Rick and Josh put a PowerPoint presentation together, and we'll just go through it. Hopefully you'll find it informative, and we're real pleased with the project. As I had stated early on, and we did last year when we did the presentation, This whole work project was a result of the street maintenance sales tax that was implemented back in 2015. And that was 1/4% sales tax throughout the city, and that has allowed us to do this project. Before, every year, we were only able to allocate $30,000 to $50,000 annually into our budget for street and drainage improvements, and this project was projected to be just under $800,000, and it turned out to be a little over $800,000 because we did add some work and we had some other what they call level up or improvements. So, Josh, you gonna run the, go ahead and come on up here and I'll kick off a few of them. I didn't bring my laser pointer. Do we have a remote? Okay. I'm sure you all saw some of the work. Well, I'm not sure, but I'm hoping that those of us that live in Helotes saw that the work was being done. A lot of it was, I pressed down. Do I press up now?
Yes.
Josh, you want to run this remote?
I can run it.
Can you run it? I'll just tell you, change screen, because I'm already messing it up. See, for you, I also meant to introduce we have a bunch of Cub Scouts here tonight from Cub Scout Pack 384, and they're here working on their citizenship badge. So you guys came just in time to watch this PowerPoint and see that a mayor does not necessarily have to run this technology and mess things up. But anyway, go to the next screen. And we just named out the major parts of this. And the first one, we did all of the streets in Beverly Hills subdivision, mainly with mastic, but there was a small portion that we did the one-course surface treatment. And a one-course surface treatment is a layer of oil, and then they come through with a spreader and spread small rocks in there called aggregate, and then they come in with a rubber-tired roller and roll that into the oil, the aggregate into the oil. And then we took it a step further to increase the longevity of the project and sprayed another coat of a sealing oil or a mastic on top of the rock. And we did the same thing on Saltillo Flat, Alta Tierra, and Alta Loma. In Ranch Acres, we did Helotes Ranch Acres Unit 4 off of Paragon. Helotes Park Estate subdivision, we did several streets in there with the one course and the mastic. And Evans Valley subdivision over off of Hausman, we did all one course and mastic and flip it. And then on Scenic Loop Road, we did a new oil treatment, the mastic, and then we put new striping on it from Bandera Road to Whipplewell. And then we did Leslie Road from Bandera Road to the top of the hill at the intersection with mastic and new striping. And then on Rainbow Ridge, and Josh will get into a little bit on the mill and overlay and what that is. And we did the mastic on top of that, and then we also did some striping. Next slide. So, Josh, if you would, just explain briefly the cost and the stuff that we eliminated and the stuff that we added and how we arrived at the total.
So what you see here in the first bar is what we consider anticipated cost, if you remember.
Can you turn your mic
Your
on?
mic on?
You just press it once to green.
It has to be green. That little light needs to be green. I know that much.
You just hit.
Ask Selena to do it. See, now I don't feel so bad.
There we go, okay.
A millennial, and he doesn't know how to operate the deal.
So the first bar there is what we're calling our anticipated costs. In 2017, we approached council with a large street maintenance plan, the largest in our city's history, and we pitched ideas of two-course surface treatment, the one-course surface treatment, which the mayor already briefly described what it is, the mastic surface treatment, and then a mill and overlay. So we estimated costs for each one of those different items, figured out our square footage for each street, and we came up with that number there of $735,000. And That's what we were estimating it was going to cost us. So we went ahead and we bid out those projects, and we got estimates back from contractors. So what we did is we then went through those estimates and started narrowing down what we thought we had to do and what we thought we only wanted to do to come up with a more streamlined plan, more precise plan. And then we also changed a few things up. So if you see in the eliminated portion, the second bar, you can see the streets we eliminated, and they were for various reasons. Old Scenic Loop, we pretty much eliminated the work we were trying to do there because of lack of traffic. It's only 2 homes on that street that utilize that road. We got Diamond K, that was removed because Bear County's doing a flood improvement project there where they're fixing to cut up the road, so we did not want to be in their way or them be in our way. The Signal Hill portion we eliminated because it's a dead-end road with basically 3 commercial properties that use it, and it was in pretty decent shape. Mountain View is a single-lane road that has a handful of homes on there, so low traffic there too. And then we eliminated the cul-de-sacs in Helotes Park Estates just because we wanted to try to focus on a couple other areas of the city. Raptorous Trail we eliminated because it's one of the newer streets up there. Saul's repaved that a few years back, so it's in pretty good shape. And then the street that I always pronounce wrong, Knock, excuse me. We eliminated that street because it's in pretty good shape and thought we could probably put that off for a year or so. So now we're showing the change and what we added. If you look at the third bar chart, you see a number of $237,000. That's things we added from the original plan just to kind of either finish off streets we had already started, or we changed some of the product, which changed the price on us, so we'll go through that. The first one was Circle A, the small portion from Bar X to Highway 16. We added that last year. We resurfaced from Bar X all the way to the top of the hill on Raptor S, so we want to finish off that little portion. And we were waiting on TxDOT with their project to see how far they would pave before we went in there and paved too much. You can see the Onyx in lieu of Access. The main difference is Access is a little higher quality product. It's got a little bit more aggregate mixed into the emulsion, and that helps with your skid rating of the product, and it also helps with the longevity of the product. And Access is a little bit more cut down with smaller and less aggregate. Street striping, we added new striping on a bunch of areas. Leslie Road, Scenic Loop, Paragon. We striped Circle A. That wasn't in the original proposal, so that equates for some of that extra cost you see there. And then 200 tons of level up. So when we got mobilized and started doing the work, we wanted to make sure that we did it right. We didn't want to leave areas with poor or right quality. We wanted to try to do the best we can on areas like Stagecoach, Tiger, and then also on Lazy F. We did a lot of level up there. So we have an additional 200 tons. We bid out 500 tons, so there's 200 tons extra factored into that added cost. And then the mill and overlay. We were originally estimating we were going to do about 10,000 square feet of mill and overlay up on Rainbow Ridge. We wound up doing close to 25,000 square feet just because we didn't want to leave an intersection not done, have the street done. We wanted to make sure it all looked aesthetically pleasing and also structurally sound. That road was in pretty bad shape up there. And then there was some extra charges for the haul off that we didn't factor in. 25 cents a square foot we paid to have them haul the material. That was, and the majority of that material, as y'all may know, was donated by Vulcan. So that's where we get that added cost. And then actual costs, we just have listed the contractors that we chose through the competitive bid process. Fuquay, they wound up coming in about at $346,000, and they did all of the mill and overlay and one course surface treatment. They put the aggregate down. Clark Construction came in at $446,000. They did the actual Onyx application, so they put that mastic treatment on top of not only every street we did the one course on, but they also did it on Scenic Loop and Leslie to kind of refurbish and rehab those streets. And then the Flasher Equipment did all the striping. The striping is about 99% done. We do have some short line work that has to be done on Leslie Road, and then they will be complete also, and then that's where you get your total cost. So here's just the maps and the pictures of some of the guys out there doing yeoman's work in the middle of summer. That's Beverly Hills. So Beverly Hills, we did all mastic. You can see them applying it there and doing the handwork on the corners. That whole neighborhood got touched. So we're very excited about that. We did 31,000 square feet of one course. There was 2 portions of streets in there, one on Baxtershire and one on Sunset that were so far gone. We didn't want to just put the mastic. We wanted to make sure we added to their structural integrity, so we also did the one course, and then we onyxed the entire neighborhood. Helotes Ranch Acres, we actually did the one course on every street inside that neighborhood to also include Alta Loma, Alta Sierra, and Sierra Flat. What's that? Altiel Flat. We did one course on every street in there along with the onyx, and it came out very nice. We wound up doing 487,000 square feet of the one course, and the same number for the onyx, 487,000 square feet. And then we did do the striping down Paragon Road from the beginning of Paragon Road in 1560 all the way back to its intersection with Mesquite Flat, 4,700 linear feet.
I think we need to make it clear that those 2 pictures on those slides at the bottom are the before,
Yeah.
and the picture on the
Yeah,
top
sorry
is
about
the
that.
redone version.
Yeah, sorry about that. I know that was something the mayor asked for us to show. So you see those 2 pictures below, that's standing in the exact same spot before and after. Those pictures were taken in 2015 or 16. I'm not real sure which year I took those. And then the top picture is a completed resurfaced road.
And that was Stagecoach, and we alluded to it, but the entire length of Stagecoach was overlaid with new asphalt before the one course surface treatment was put on there, because it was so rough.
Yeah, it's called like a thin coat overlay, and it's basically the best way that you can get a smooth ride surface and also repair all your deficiencies. You can see the cracking and things in there. So we don't want to just take new stuff and put it on old stuff. We want to make sure we're fixing it from the bottom up.
And the same thing applied on that one that you just had. That was Tiger Road. And this is all part of the level up, or the work that was done before the one course. There, they just did a short section across that culvert that's in the middle of Tiger Road, and they did both sides of the road. So again, you can see the before on the right and the after on the left of just the level up, and then they came on with the oil and the rock and the extra oil on top of that. Next one, Selena. This is on Paragon, and this is just a sequence of more level up. That was a serious dip that we wanted to fill, because it's just very aggravating to drivers, and so they came in and put asphalt there. Go ahead and click it. And this is just a sequence. Click it. Click it. And again, this is all on Paragon at that one place. Go ahead. This is Stagecoach. This is just showing some of the work that was done as the asphalt and the aggregate was getting ready to go down.
And the material that was used for the level up is a type D asphalt, and when you start getting type D, A, B, C, D, basically that's just referring to the size of the aggregate. So type D's got a pretty small aggregate in it, and it helps it kind of get down and fill up those deficiencies and get those rough spots out of there. And then we come back with that one course on top of it, so that we're also protecting what's there, and then also making all the streets look the same. We're trying to avoid the checkerboard look throughout the neighborhoods.
Yeah, it was interesting there on Stagecoach. Bert, I think it was Bert, was saying some of the people came out with their grandkids and stood and watched the work being done. So it got a lot of attention, and a lot of people at our Neighbors Night Out earlier this month were commenting from the different subdivisions on how great the streets look. So people did notice.
Well,
Okay.
can I say something real quick?
Yeah.
But I actually live on Stagecoach, and Kathy and I, my wife and I have lived there since 1991, and that road it had a washboard effect, and now it is smooth. I mean, it's so nice. And then also the construction people came out with a power washer and cleaned everybody's driveway, making sure there was no residue from the oil or anything like that. The construction crew did a great job. They really did.
Yeah, Josh and Justin and Rick stayed on top of that and did a pretty extensive punch list, and the contractors were really responsive.
Can I say
Sure.
something? They didn't do that to my driveway. It's got
They didn't?
tar all on it. Just wanted to let you know.
Okay.
But Diamond K Trail, you mentioned that y'all didn't, because I've already gotten a request, or one of the residents says, why wasn't Diamond K done? And you mentioned it.
So the culvert that goes under Diamond K at the intersection of Bar X, that there's two sets, one on each side.
Right.
Those are slated to be ripped out, just like the culvert up on the corner of Diamond K and Rockingham. So we didn't want to.
That's a flood problem, floodplain
Yes.
problem?
Yes, ma'am,
Yeah, it's
that's
gonna tie
Coleman
in right
project.
there, and that channel will be improved. So once that project is done, then we're scheduled to go in and do Diamond K.
That'll
So
be
you
a
can
part
just
of this next year's street
Yeah.
improvement projects.
let anybody know it's coming.
And
We just wanted to wait for Bear County to finish.
If anybody asks, Diamond K is a priority for us. I mean, as soon as we can get in there and fix it, that we're going to.
But you don't know when they're gonna do the,
We're at the mercy of Bear County.
They're working on it right now.
all right.
Josh, did you all make any estimates as far as the life extension this creates for the roads that you've actually done? Because they pretty much, they say anywhere from 5 to 15 years based upon
Yeah,
that product.
a typical one course will buy you about 7 years. That's kind of what the TxDOT standard does.
Okay.
The application of coming back on top of it with a mastic is a relatively new idea. People really don't know how long that's gonna last yet, so we're gonna find out. Hopefully in the next 10 to 15 years, maybe we can extend that life past 7 years, but that's the goal.
And keep in mind, many of the streets that we did this year probably haven't been touched since they've been put in, which in some cases were 30, 40 years or longer. So like Josh was saying, statistically, we were hoping for 7 to 10, and with the Onyx maybe going out to 15. But I think we'll see, they could last a lot longer.
I was just commenting, we might want to add that to our slides because that's important to people seeing that
Yeah.
you could extend your road by a good amount of time and not have to go in and do a complete overlay.
Right.
And just filling a little bit more on that, we use a degradation curve that was provided to us by the Texas Transportation Institute. And essentially a thin coat asphalt like a one course that we're using has about a 35-year life expectancy. Of course, that changes based upon weather, amount of rain, and traffic. So we're kind of dealing with from a brand new road till it turns back to dirt is about 35 years. And so we're just trying to push that out by doing these maintenance activities to it. This slide here is Helotes Park Estates. We did not get to do every street in there, but we did do a couple streets last year, and we'll definitely be back in there for the 2019 plan. But we redid Flying W, both sides, Lazy F, Rockingham, and Cross XD and Bar D up at the top. So we did 243,000 square feet of one course, and then everything we one course, we also mastic up there, put the Onyx product down, and then we did the 6,800 feet of striping down Circle A. Those were also before and after pictures that we were just looking at there. And then in Evans Valley, we went in there and redid the entire neighborhood with the one course and the mastic, and it came out very, very nice in there. It's a beautiful looking neighborhood at this point. You can see the below pictures where you see that you're having some aggregate loss and some raveling there in the tire tracks, and then you look at the top and it looks like a blacktop highway there. So even the transitions between the one course and mastic and the transition of the asphalt that Bear County put in on the bridges, it's very hard to tell the difference in the two products. So we really got a nice finish with the applications that we did there. And then Scenic Loop, we basically went in there, did some level up work, and then we sealed the whole surface and put new striping. I don't know if y'all seen it before this plan, but the striping in places was almost not visible. And it's a high traffic road, so we wanted to make sure we redid that for safety reasons, more so than functionality, because it was a pretty good road. And we did the 142,000 square feet of Onyx on Scenic Loop, and then the 12,938 feet of striping. And then Leslie Road, which is probably our busiest road in the city. We got O'Connor there, so we were having the same problem. We were losing a lot of visibility on the striping. So we went in there and sealed the road, put all new striping in there, and did some mill and overlay up at the top, which I believe, is that on the next slide? So we did 25,000 square feet of mill and overlay. Basically, the whole intersection from Leslie and Leslie all the way down Signal Hill. That was the worst street that we probably had in our city other than Old Scenic Loop. And it was one of the most traveled. There's a couple 118-wheelers a day coming in and out of there, so that was the most extensive repair work we did. We planned on doing a 2-inch mill and overlay. When we started milling the existing asphalt, we found out we only had 2 inches there, so we wound up doing a mill and a 4-inch lay there, which is why we kind of went over. But we wanted to make sure that we put enough asphalt down in there to handle the weight that was coming in there. If we would have stuck with a 2-inch, it'd probably be all cracked up in about a year or so. So we kind of added some more product there and got that done. You can see the milling machine basically taking the asphalt all the way down the base. Then we recompacted that base and came with a complete new road there. Came up in 2-inch lifts. You can see the first lift on the left. That went right on top of asphalt, or the base, excuse me. And then the other lift on the right to bring it back to grade is on top of the asphalt there. Those are just the pneumatic rollers. Those are basically there to directionalize your aggregate. You always want to make sure you're rolling in the same direction traffic travels so that you get that rock lay in the appropriate direction for traffic. So at the beginning, we had an estimated overall condition index of every street in here. And then we go into our operation management system. We input all this work that we did, and we factor in the appreciation curves to that condition index. So here's every street. We'll just look at a couple of them. If you look at Altaloma, the beginning estimated condition index was 30.67. We ended out at a 66.67. One of the things to keep in mind with this, these are all percentage basis. We have maintenance activities that have a percentage increase impact on the condition score. So if you're starting with a really low street to begin with, you almost have to go in and completely reassess the street and provide a brand new condition score in order to move it above those percentages that are in our system. And then also some streets got a single application of maybe just a mastic, and some streets got 2 applications. And then we have some streets where we went in and we did a lot of in-house level up work and edge of road repair, which adjusted the condition index just prior to all this. So we started off with the average for the entire network of roads that we worked on at a 58.06, and we ended at an 80.53. The target index that we've been working with within the department is 70. We want every street here in our city to score a 70. And so you can see that this plan, we achieved a huge chunk of getting towards that goal. And then this is just the timeline. So 2015 is when we started the special election for the street maintenance sales tax. In November, the tax was approved. Looking down in 2016, we started collecting the funds. 2017, we started collecting the funds, and then we started spending them in 2017. We did a lot of crack fill. We pretty much in 2017 got to the point where we crack filled every street in the city. We started that actually in 2016, but completed in 2017. And then we did some one course in 2017 on Bar X and Circle A. 2018, we got more of the street sales tax revenue. And then in 2018, that's when we started the largest street maintenance project in the city's history that we've gone over tonight. 2019, you see there where we collected more street maintenance sales tax. In January is when, I don't know what that one says. January 2019? What is that?
Call for the special election.
To reauthorize the street maintenance sales.
Yeah, we're gonna put it
So you've
on,
already done that.
we're gonna put it on the May ballot
That's coming up.
We're
No,
doing
we
it in
we have
January.
not done that. This is a
projection.
projection for
Gotcha.
what needs to happen in 2019 to reauthorize the municipal sales tax for street maintenance.
As you recall, hopefully, it has to be renewed every 4 years with a special election.
Yeah, that's a Rick Schroeder question if you want to know about that. I don't mess with elections, if you couldn't tell.
Yeah, just know that on this ballot, we're shooting for the May ballot, since it's our normal rotation for elections. Otherwise, we'd have to come back with another election in November. And this is, explain what this is, Josh, the Click Fix thing?
So a while back, the mayor came to us and told us he had an idea. He saw a presentation and he wanted to make it simpler for residents and for contractors and for developers or whoever needs a request or contact the city to be able to get a hold of us. It's primarily driven towards the residents so they can report issues to the city of Helotes, whether it be for Public Works or any other department. And it's, you heard the saying, there's an app for that. So now we got an app, or we're working on getting an app that directly communicates with our operation management system. The video's a great video, so if you want to go ahead and play it, and then if you got any questions, we can kind of talk about it.
We care deeply about our neighborhoods. When something's broken on our street, we want it fixed quickly. Knowing who to call and having the time to call them can be really frustrating. On the other side, managing these concerns along with daily workloads takes time and a lot of internal communication. So much so that the concerned citizen often gets lost in the shuffle. This will result in a lapse in experience and a discouraged citizen. It doesn't have to be this way. With C-Click-Fix, citizens can easily submit concerns to their smartphones, the town website, in person, or over the phone. These concerns are then sent automatically to the right official with the right information to get the job done. Town officials are then able to manage the assignment, communication, and resolution around these issues, keeping the citizen in the loop the whole time. Finally, this data helps the government to run an efficient organization, tracking work, activity, and successful exchanges, so that when management meets with council, they are able to have better informed discussion, leading to better decisions. See Clear Fix, better communication, stronger communities.
So, real quick, just as an example, if you see a pothole in your street, you have your smartphone, you open the app, you click on there's a pothole, the phone will immediately log where you're at. Everything's geolocated in our city, and they use spatial analysis to know where you're at. You click on there's a pothole, please get it fixed. That comes to our system. We'll then respond back to you. As soon as I assign a crew to go work on that pothole, you'll get an email back, hey, your request has been processed and has been assigned out. Once the crew goes out there and fixes that pothole, it will then, they'll come back and put their data into the system, how much asphalt they use, how many man hours, all that good stuff. And you'll get an email back when they close a work order saying, hey, your work order's been completed. Then at the same time, our operation management system will then take the positive impact of doing that pothole repair on that street asset and give some percentage increase to the condition score of that asset. So we can maintain constant inventory of our streets, and that works for anything that we have in our system. I just use the pothole as one example. And it's to make our lives easier and make the residents' life easier.
Nice. Thanks, Josh.
Thank you.
Anyway, hopefully that gives you a good summary of the work that was done. And there's still some punch-out work. I know we have one driveway to address, make sure it gets power washed. But other than that, any questions? Bert?
Yeah, once again, I'd like everybody to know that back in 2015, Josh was the one that brought the quarter-cent sales tax to council. Without him doing that, we wouldn't have been able to do all this work. So once again, I've thanked you before, but I'm going to thank you again, Josh. Good job bringing that to us. Sure appreciate it. And then, one other thing I was going to say, is there any way to get this PowerPoint, maybe, if everybody agrees with me, get this PowerPoint that we just showed the citizens and council, put it on our website so we can get it ahead of things for the special election that we hope to get on the ballot in May?
Sure.
I think it would be a good thing to do so they could see what their sales tax money, or what the sales tax money is doing for our streets. Think that's a good idea? Okay. Or did you already have that in the works?
Sure, we had that in the works.
You did. Well, you're always a step ahead of me.
No, that's a good idea.
Okay. That's all I had.
Jim, anything?
Nothing more.
Cynthia? Paul?
Thanks for the good work.
Thanks. It's all Josh and Public Works and Rick and doing all their running around and I enjoyed watching a lot of it being done. It is pretty interesting. Okay, next up is unfinished business, item number 4. And this is discussion of an action on an ordinance for adding a yield sign location at the intersection of Mesquite Flat and Stagecoach. You recall last time we went through this, it was postponed from last meeting to this meeting so that Public Works could do a little more research and see if we could use a yield sign in lieu of a stop sign, if we were going to put any sign at all. And Josh did that, put the information in your packet. It shows that a yield sign is acceptable and makes the most sense. And the post is already there with the street names on it, and we already have a yield sign, so it's just a matter, if you guys approve this tonight, that Public Works will go out and install that yield sign, just to make it official and show that there is some control on that intersection. So I'd taken a motion and a second then to discuss and take action on item number 4.
I'd move we take action on number 4.
Have a motion from Meadows. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second from Fredericks. Jim, any discussion from you?
Just one question for the administrator. Does that have any public safety impact as far as can they issue citations from a yield sign? Does that make any difference at all?
Once this is codified through the ordinance adoption tonight, then it will be a part of our code of ordinances, and the police would be able to regulate that.
Be just like any other
Right.
traffic
Just
sign.
wanted, I wasn't totally familiar with the fact that they could issue citations on a yield sign.
Yes, they can.
Okay. That's all.
Okay, Paul?
No, I think a yield sign was better than a stop sign at that location. So I'm in favor for it.
Cynthia?
Yeah, I don't have anything to say.
Bert? Okay, no further discussion. We'll call the question. All in favor of approving the location for the yield sign, say aye.
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 Opposed, say no. Motion carries, so we'll go ahead and be installing that yield sign sometime in the very near future. Consent agenda items, for those of you that aren't familiar with our form of meeting, a consent agenda is just a grouping of multiple items that are taking action by, needing to have action taken by council. And so as the staff and I consider them fairly routine business, they're lumped together, hopefully to get a motion and a second from council to approve all of them at the same time. However, council can ask questions. If it's one that we can answer fairly easily, we'll address it then. Otherwise, they can pull the item to be discussed fully further down in the agenda. So I would ask, are there any questions or requests to pull an item on consent agenda items 5 through 7?
None.
None? Then I would entertain a motion and a second to approve consent agenda items 5 through 7.
Mayor, I make a motion, we approve consent agenda items 5 through 7.
We have a motion from Byes. Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Second from Massey. And no request for questions or pulling an item, so we'll call the question. All in favor of approving consent agenda items 5 through 7, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. Consent agenda items 5 through 7 are approved. That takes us down to item number 8, which is individual consideration. This is discussion of an action on a request by Alamo Sign Solutions for approval of a wall signage for Take 5 oil change located at 12266 Bandera Road. So if I can get a motion and a second.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we discuss and take action on item number 8 as written.
We have a motion from Massey. Do we have a second?
Second.
Oh, go ahead, Jim.
Second from Meadows. So Cynthia, it's your motion. You're up.
Yes, so after reading P and Z's recommendation, I agree with their recommendation. We're supposed to be looking at a sign, and I'm looking at this picture here, and the sign I'm thinking is this little oil can, and this little thing right here, I don't know
Yeah.
what you would call it.
That's their logo,
That whole, that's the sign, okay.
plus the drive-through oil change above.
And the drive-through oil change is part of the sign?
Yes.
Okay, but I've never seen a sign that looks, anyway. It looks like words, text across the top. Anyway, I think it looks okay other than, I do agree that the red is, there's just too much red there, and I do agree that it should be reduced as 25%, as the commission says. It looks better than I thought it would. On the screen, it looked pink, and the colors looked really ugly, but the color scheme here looks much better. The red is very obtrusive, and I think it just should be, and I do agree with the commission's belief that it's not the hill country aesthetic. I know that we do have a lot of logos and other things along the street that have red in them, but this is excessive. And so I just think that eliminating or eliminating the sides would be good, and also making that smaller, 25 by 25%, would work for me.
Making what, 25%, the drive-through oil change
Yes.
part of it?
Yes,
And as I recall, they said to not have the red stripe around the building on the sides and the back.
Rear and both sides.
Yeah, so that's what your motion is including, to go with that? And leave the front like it is, or what would be reduced 25%? The red stripe?
the red stripe, and if you reduce the red stripe, then you're gonna have to reduce the text drive-through oil change.
Well, you could shorten the red stripe, so are you talking about the length, or not wanting it to run the whole front of the building?
You know what, it running across the whole building doesn't bother me. I'm not exactly sure, I think that it should be thinner this way, is that what the
Height?
yeah, the height.
Okay, we'll keep that thought and see what everybody else says. Jim, you have any comments? You're the second.
I have one question, and that is, again, for staff. If the words drive-through oil change were not there, or if oil change was not there, would just the red stripe fall under our sign criteria, or would it just be part of the original design of the building as far as the painting?
It would still be within the purview of the council through a conceptual design review. But in this case, because it's an existing building, you wouldn't necessarily be given the opportunity to do a conceptual sign review. So you'll see in staff's review and opinion of this, we were strictly looking at the signage itself. The commission brought up the red aspect of it, so.
Well, my question is more directed to, if the generic drive-through is one thing to say, this is where you bring your car in. It does bring on sign aspects, but if it was just painting the building with a red stripe of that size, we wouldn't have, at this point, control over that, would we?
No, not unless somebody, of course, made a complaint, and
Right.
then we would have to address it at that time.
Right. So my concern is the fact that the drive-through oil change takes up so much of the area. I'm not concerned about the red stripe itself. I'm not concerned about drive-through. I'm concerned that becomes a sign by virtue of the fact of you're putting all four words there. That may be a nitpick. The size of the red stripe did not bother me as much as the contrast of the four letters, the four words, and the red stripe. But it really doesn't bother me that much. It's not going to be seen from the street per se. I believe most of that will be blocked as far as from visibility from the main street, will it not?
Yes, sir, if you go to the map above it.
Yep.
Yeah, and as I recall, the square footage of the sign, including the drive-through oil changes, within the square footage allowed, right?
Yes.
That's,
So, and it's only 18 inches tall, the letters, I don't know, dropping it any less than 18 inches would be more detrimental to the business probably than aesthetically pleasing to anybody looking at it. And then what are you going to go to, 12 inches? So it's just something to consider. 18 inches really isn't that much for as far back from the street as this is.
Well, I think about our other auto-related type businesses, and their coloration is quite striking, in most cases, and red is a dominant color. I don't think this is that much more, if anything, more than what you see in some of the other auto parts places. That's just my only comment, Tim.
Yeah, and like we say, the square footage falls within the square footage allowed by the ordinance, so I don't know that we can force them to make it any smaller. Anything else?
That was it.
Bert?
I'm a little confused. The commission is saying that they want to reduce the red stripe on the front, they want to reduce it in length by 25%. I don't understand what they meant by that. I wish Alex was here, he probably went to the meeting, but,
That would be
I would assume-
reducing the length of it by 25% from the corner
Turning
of
it
the
into a
building.
sign instead of a stripe element, you're actually turning it
Nope.
into a sign by shortening it.
In other words, maybe to the left of the D in Drive,
Yep.
they would say eliminate that. But I don't know that make a dramatic
is that
difference.
what they meant?
That's what we're.
They
that's the
could
only
not
neg-
come to their agreement.
It was 3-2, I know
Their
that.
agreement was simply to do 25, to make the red on the front of the building less. And so the only agreement that they could come to was the number of 25%. Whether that meant reduce it from one side to the other, that, they really didn't get in that conversation.
Oh, okay.
And keep in
I mean, I
mind,
don't-
this is located behind that two-story.
No, I've been to the one that was there before, yeah.
Now, what they all had agreement on was the sides and the rear, taking the red
Taking the
off.
red side, and then just, and since this actually, this doesn't need a variance or anything, it's good to go. It's just they were just saying they wanted to try to ask to get it reduced in length. I think it looks just fine the way it is. It's only 18 inches. Are we gonna have to tell the company that, or ask them to take the other 3 stripes off? Have they agreed to that? Well, I understand, but I mean, what if they say they would rather still do that?
There's a representative here tonight.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Oh, come on up.
I'm sorry,
We'll ask you some
we'll ask you.
questions. Tell us who you are and who you represent.
James Alfaro with Alamo Sign Solutions.
Okay.
And we represent Take 5
Okay.
Joshua Oil.
James, were you amenable to taking the 3 signs off the sides and the back?
Yes, sir. We are actually, we submitted some revised plans.
I did not receive any revisions today. I asked for them, but I did not receive them.
A copy here. if you-
Can we see it?
Sure.
I'm sorry, how long you been standing
Give
over
them to Selena down there, and she can pass them out.
Thank you.
It actually shows a reduction in that red stripe. It's still the full length of the building, but it's reduced in width,
Oh, okay.
or the height, rather.
You still keeping the letters the same size?
Yes, sir. The
Yeah.
letters would remain the same, because that's kind of the standard size of channel letter for all 28 locations in the San Antonio area.
Yeah.
So they'd like to
Is-
maintain
Can I keep that?
that.
Can I keep going? Is the color red that you're gonna use, is it the same as what have you seen the AutoZone that we have in our city?
It's close to it.
It's close to it?
It's a variation of red, but it's not exact, but it's very close.
It's very close,
Same
okay.
as with the wash tub and, any
Okay.
of the reds that are out there.
Okay.
They're
Cardinal
pretty
red, close. Yeah.
See the back, it doesn't have any of them.
As you can see on the back, they have no problems removing the letters on the east elevation and on the rear. They did make, if you can see in the drawing on that back wall, they show a little checkerboard cover on the roof of that little extended patio portion. It's not, a deal killer. Obviously, they want to just have as much of their signage as possible up. But they're willing to remove the red stripe on the other elevations and then reduce that red stripe by the 25% the council recommended.
Okay,
So, and that's.
Very good.
That's the drawing that
okay.
they've presented.
Good job. I didn't have anything else, Mayor.
I,
I
oh,
I have a question. I'm still a little confused about the term sign for paint, because paint is not a sign. And I think we can regulate the color of paint that's on a building. So I just wanted to clear that up. This, what we're talking about, this stripe around, is not a sign, it's paint. And we can regulate that. We can, it is clearly not, a hill country aesthetic. However, it is true that a lot of automotive places do have this. That doesn't mean that we necessarily have to accept it. But the fact that they're willing to make it a little smaller, not so obtrusive, and to do some of the recommendations is fine with me.
Okay. Paul, you didn't have a shot, so let's hear your comments.
I didn't have a problem with the original design, because it is back up off the street, and they are gonna have to do some kind of calling of attention to their business. But if they're amicable to the reduction, then I'm okay with either one is fine with me. I didn't think it was that bad.
Okay, now Cynthia, any follow-up after him? Because what, we'll clarify your motion, but did you have any other follow-up, other
No.
than what you just said?
No.
Jim, anything else?
yeah, I am concerned, I know that we can regulate paint, but I'm concerned about confusing regulating paint with signage. And I think we have already, a 600-page sign ordinance we're proposing. And I'm concerned about further obfuscating that by saying we're now going to say something without any lettering on it, or I'm talking about the other three elevations now, that becomes a sign issue and not a paint issue. Because this is brought in as one sign, as I understood it, is that the way it's been brought. I find the proposed elevation would make the building more attractive than what it is now. But I am concerned about us basically conflating those two between signage and paint. And if we want to disallow the paint colors, we ought to do that as a painting and a design issue and not do it as a sign issue. But I don't want to talk past the close. If the proposer is willing to eliminate it, so be it. But I don't want us to get into a confusing situation.
You're talking about the paint on the sides and the rear,
Yes,
Yeah,
which would not be part of the sign.
correct.
correct.
Right.
It's really not a sign issue.
Good point. Anything else?
No.
Bert, any follow-up
No,
on that?
thank you for bringing this, and I think it looks better in my mind with the reduced red line in the front. And if it's going to be close to the one we have at AutoZone, that's a good red in my mind.
You want to look at this again? Paul, anything else?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, then, it's not real clear on the item description here exactly what's going on, so we could look for an amended motion, since your motion was for it as written. And if you would like to amend your motion to include approving the revised plan that was just submitted with the reduced red stripe on the front and no painted red stripe on the back or the sides, and approve it as submitted there, that would probably work.
I'd like to amend my motion to approve this amended submission,
Okay?
and I'm still having a difficulty, I'm sorry. The sign is actually that thing there, and it's not the color. So I'm also going to ask to approve the new color scheme as well, because it's not, the color scheme is not the same.
On that one? On the revised one?
Okay, I'm approving the new front elevation and side and rear elevations that were submitted
Tonight?
tonight.
Okay.
And
And you
that-
all saw that? And you
That's
wanna-
acceptable
You
on
want
the
to second
second.
that
Yes, sir.
amended motion?
That's acceptable.
Okay, so the motion now is to approve the submittal that was made tonight with the revised layout and colors.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you.
Okay? Any other questions or discussion?
We'll have to vote on it. No.
Yeah. Thanks a lot. I appreciate you bringing that. So with that being said, no other discussion being requested or required, we'll call the question. All in favor of the motion to approve the revised signage as submitted tonight, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say no. Motion carries. The request is approved. Congratulations. And that finishes up our agenda. So we will, if there are no objections to adjourning, we will adjourn at 7:55. Any objections? Done. We're adjourned.